Good morning. Today in Algebra 2, we are going to be doing an assignment on Delta Math to practice the domain and range concepts that we talked about yesterday. Remember, domain is the x values, how far left and right a graph moves, and the range is the y's, how far up and down a graph moves. So we'll look at them visually today. We'll also look at some like common sense limitations that can happen on domain and range, because sometimes things are limited just because real life limits things. So we'll talk about that. What I have up right now on my screen is Delta Math. So this is the student view that I can see as a teacher. So I assume yours is going to look similar to this. So I want to point out a couple of things to you. Remember, you set this up on Wednesday, I think it was, in class online. So you should be ready to go for that. If not, you can look back at that module. There is a student help video up here in the upper right corner, so you can look at that. I hope you can see that. So the assignment you're going to do today is this one in blue. It says domain and range. So I'm going to click there. Up in the left corner here, it says that we need to get 12 points on this. So you are going to work until you get your 12 points. So it's important to practice enough to master a skill. So that's what we're going for here. That's what this is going to do. So this first question, we want to determine the domain of the following graph. So that's how far left and right you go. Feel free to take this graph and put it on your domain and range finder so that you can use the little foldable flaps if that is helpful to you. So it's looking to me like it's going over as far left as -4, as far right as a +5, but the open circles show me that it's not actually touching those. So to give our answer here, I know this looks a little weird down here at the bottom. It's going to have us use symbols. So we are going to use interval notation, and we want to open parentheses because it doesn't actually touch those endpoints. And I think I said -4 over to what, +5. So we can submit that answer. And it asks if we're sure. And woohoo, we got it right. So that's good. We'll look at the next problem here. Well, let's say you looked at this one and you're like, oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Well, there's a couple of things that you can look at to help. Up here in the upper right, there is an example it says show example. So if you click there, it's going to give you a similar problem, not the same problem, and it's going to kind of explain things down here. You can go through several of those. It says next example now, so you can go to the next example. But then you want to go back and go to the original problem. There's a give up button. I don't really like that because I don't really want you to give up. But if you want to move on to something else, that's going to take a point off, so it's going to make you do 2 problems to make up for it. But it's there. I don't like that it's there, but I can't make it go away. There's also this watch help video link. So if I click there, it's going to open up a video. This one's 7 minutes and 16 seconds long, and it'll walk you through the process. I think the guy does a good job explaining things, and maybe you'll like him better than me. Who knows? So that's there for you. I'm going to hide that video again. Now it looks like this graph, if I'm looking at the domain, the left-right movement, it's going from -11 on the low end, the left, up to a +10 on the right as the high end. And if you look at the circles, the -11 has a closed circle, so that means it can be -11, and that means we're going to use the square style brackets on that end. So I'm going to click this button. On the 10 end, it's got a open circle, so that means it can't actually ever reach 10 as far as the x values go. So that's going to be the round type of parentheses. So it was -11 to 10. But you know what? I'm going to miss this one. I'm going to put a 9 here and see what happens. So I'm going to submit this answer. I'm going to say I'm sure. And it's not right. Okay, so we have another attempt at this. This is good. You have another chance. So then I look at it, and I look at my graph again, and I realize, oh, no, that doesn't go to 9. That goes to 10. So I'm going to put a 10 in here and submit our answer. And yes, I want to submit it. And woohoo, we got it right. So I believe I have it set that you get 2 chances on each question. And then if you miss it again, then you're going to have to do another problem to make up for that. So up here in the corner, the left-hand corner, you can tell that I've gotten 2 out of the 12 that I need so far. So we're going to keep going like that. Another type of question you're going to see is one that wants you to use the different language that we talked about yesterday. You know how in English you can say, hey, how's it going? Sup? Well, in math, we have different ways of giving the domain and range. So we have an interval given here with closed brackets from 0 to 5. And we are going to change that into inequality notation. So we are going to go x is going to be between 0 and 5. So 0, there's a square bracket, so I know I'm going to use the inequality symbol with the line under it. And there's a square bracket on the other side too, so I know x is going to stay between 0 and 5. So there's that. On the number line, that would mean I would want to go from 0 to 5. So it says click and drag to plot the line. So I'm going to go from 0 up to 5. And then there's a note that says click the line to delete, click the closed circle to change to an open circle. So if you click the circle, it'll change it. I want it to be closed because we have square brackets, which means it can be those values, so that would be a closed circle. So I'm going to submit that answer, and hopefully we get it right here. Looks like we did. Okay, woohoo. Let's see what comes up next. Okay, here's the other type of question I want to talk about today. So sometimes our domain, our inputs, or our range, or outputs is limited because of life, because of a real situation. So we have an example of that here that we're going to look at. It says that a college has a financial aid formula that applies to applicants whose family income is below a certain threshold. The financial aid can be determined by the function f of x equals 15,000 plus 3,000x, where x is the number of siblings, including half-siblings and step-siblings, that the applicant has living in their household. Find and interpret the given function values and determine an appropriate domain for the function. So I had 2 brothers growing up. So if x is the number of siblings, I would put a 2 in for x into this formula. So 2 goes in for x times $3,000, so I'd get $6,000. Added to the $15,000 base, so I would be looking at $21,000. So that's just an example. So let's see what this asks. It says that f of -3, so let's take a -3 and plug it in for the x value there. So if I take a -3 and put it in for the x, 3,000 times -3 would be -9,000. Add that to the 15,000 and I would be at 6,000. So in this first blank here, I'm going to type in $6,000. Meaning that a qualifying applicant with how many siblings? Okay, x is the number of siblings. What value did I just plug in there for x? -3. Okay, hold it. How do you have negative siblings? What's that mean? They haven't even been born yet? Like what? That's not even a thing. So that's going to come up here in a minute. But that means if somehow you had -3 siblings, then you would get $6,000 in financial aid. This interpretation does not make sense. Okay, so that does not make sense at all. F of 2, okay, so this would be if you have 2 siblings. I already evaluated this one for you because that was my situation when I was a kid. I would get $21,000, meaning a qualifying applicant with 2 siblings, that's my X value, would get $21,000 in aid. Now, that one does make sense. F of 1.5, so I'm going to take a 1.5 and plug it in for my x value. So let's do that up here. So 1.5 times 3,000, that would be 4,500. And add that to the 15,000 means I would be at 19,500, I believe. So that number of siblings, that's your x value. So in this case, that's 1.5 siblings. Well, I know that there's such a thing as half siblings, but that's not how we count them. Like, we don't actually count them as like half of a sibling. Okay, so we'll get to that. So this is the 19,500. And that does not make sense. So based on what we've noticed here, the domain for this, so how many siblings can you have? Can you have a negative number of siblings? No, that doesn't make sense. Can you have like part of a sibling? The word half sibling does not mean like decimal or fraction of a sibling. So in this case, it makes sense to use whole numbers. You might have no siblings, 1, 2, 3, etc. So let's see how we did. Yes, we want to submit this. And woohoo, we got it right. So go ahead and do your questions on this and make sure you use those help videos or examples to get some extra help as you need them and get your 12 points. I don't think that you have to do anything special to submit it. I think it just shows up for me automatically. And have a good day. And I think this is for Friday. So I think have a good weekend. And remember that Jesus loves you and so do I. So do your math.